The universe did not welcome him back with a roar, but with a stranglehold. Reality did not tear open. It bled. When Son Goku stepped through the fracture in the Dragon Void, leaving the realm of absolute nothingness behind, he expected the familiar rush of Earth's wind, the scent of grass, the chaotic, vibrant hum of mortal life. Instead, he tasted metal. He tasted the cold, sterilized perfection of a prison cell disguised as a planet. He landed not with a crater-forming impact, but with a silence that was heavier than gravity. The sky above the wasteland was not blue. To the naked eye, perhaps, it retained the illusion of normalcy, but to senses sharpened by the dragon seed and the ancient darkness of the void, the atmosphere was choking. Goku looked up, his eyes narrowing, the dragon-slit pupils dilating as they adjusted to the light of the living world. He saw it immediately. It was a masterpiece of oppression, a lattice of golden light, faint and pulsating, woven into the very stratosphere like a spiderweb spun by a god. It was not a barrier to keep things out. It was a net to keep things in. It was authority. It was the Grand Priest's law, refined and weaponized by the Supreme Angel, draped over the entire globe like a suffocating shroud. Every bird that flew, every leaf that fell, every breath taken by 7 billion people was being measured, weighed, and permitted only by the grace of a distant throne. Goku clenched his fist, the dragon scales on his hand rippling under his skin. He had escaped the void, but he had not escaped the war. He had simply stepped into a smaller, more fragile cage, one where the hostages were not gods, but the people he loved. To witness the weight of this choice and stand with the dragon as he faces the one threat he cannot punch, lend your focus to this timeline now. Subscribe and ignite the signal, so the history of this rebellion is never erased from the archives of the stars. The transition from the Dragon Void to the living realm was not a liberation, it was a collision. There was no thunderclap to announce his return, no shockwave of displaced air to shatter the surrounding canyons. When Son Goku stepped through the fracture, he had torn in the fabric of non-existence. He simply appeared. One moment, he was submerged in the crushing, suffocating entropy of the void, where time was a corpse and light was a memory. The next, he was standing on the hard, cracked clay of a wasteland on Earth. Gravity, familiar and ancient, grabbed him by the ankles. The sun, a burning coin of yellow-white, beat down upon his shoulders. It should have been a moment of triumph. It should have been the breathless, euphoric rush of a diver surfacing after drowning, filling his lungs with the sweet, chaotic air of home. But the air did not taste sweet. It tasted of metal. It tasted of ozone, sterilized glass, and a perfection so rigid it made his teeth ache. Goku stood motionless in the center of the wasteland, his boots sinking slightly into the red dust. His chest heaved, not from exhaustion, but from the sudden, violent recalibration of his senses. The dragon seed, embedded deep within his spirit, pulsed with a rhythm that was discordant with the world around him. In the void, he had become a creature of defiance, a being that existed despite the laws of physics. Here, in the universe he had fought to protect, he felt like a virus injected into a pristine, sanitized computer system. He looked down at his hands. The dragon scales that had formed armor in the void had receded beneath his skin, leaving only a faint, shimmering texture along his forearms and the backs of his knuckles, a reminder of the power that now lay coiled, waiting. He clenched his fist, expecting the atmosphere to ripple with his ki, to bend around the sheer weight of his presence. It didn't. The air remained still, dead still. Slowly, terrifyingly, Goku lifted his eyes to the sky. To a normal human, to Krillin, to Bulma, perhaps even to Vegeta in his base form, the sky would have looked like a masterpiece of a summer day. It was a piercing, unblemished blue, stretching from horizon to horizon without a single cloud to mar its surface. But Goku was no longer seeing with just Saiyan eyes. He was seeing with the predatory metaphysical sight of a being who had hunted inside a dimension of nothingness. The dragon seed peeled back the illusion of the spectrum, stripping away the blue paint of the atmosphere to reveal the architecture underneath. He gasped, a sharp, involuntary sound that died instantly in the heavy air. The sky was a cage, woven into the very stratosphere, hanging low and oppressive like a net of molten gold, was a grid. It was a geometric nightmare of intersecting lines, perfect hexagons of hard light that spanned the entire globe. It didn't just sit above the clouds, it seemed to be stitched into the molecules of the air itself. It pulsed with a low, rhythmic hum, a frequency that vibrated in the bones of the earth. This was not a barrier designed to stop an invasion fleet. It was far more insidious. It was a nervous system. Angel Law, Goku whispered, the words feeling foreign and jagged in his mouth. He recognized the energy signature immediately. It was the same cold, absolute authority he had felt in the Grand Priest's presence. The same undeniable weight that had crushed Zeno into silence. But here, it was diluted, spread thin and weaponized. It was everywhere. It was in the sunlight filtering through the hexagonal gaps. It was in the wind that refused to gust, blowing only in gentle, mathematically precise current. Goku took a step forward, and for the first time in his life, he felt the environment resist him. Not physically, there was no wall, but existentially. The space around him felt thick, viscous, as if reality itself was checking his credentials before allowing him to move. The golden lattice above flared brighter for a microsecond, a ripple of light traveling across the grid like a synapse firing in a giant brain. They know, he thought, the realization cold as ice water. The moment I breathed, they knew. He suppressed his power instantly. Years of training with Whis, the discipline of ultra instinct, and the raw survivalism of the void allowed him to clamp down on his energy, pulling it so deep inside himself that he became a ghost in the sensory spectrum. But even that felt wrong. The lattice wasn't just scanning for high power levels, it was scanning for intent. It was measuring the causality of the planet, ensuring that every atom remained in its assigned place. Goku walked toward a jagged ridge of rock, his movements stiff. He saw a lizard perched on a stone, sunning itself. It didn't scurry away as he approached. It stared at him with unblinking, glassy eyes, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. Goku stopped. He could sense the faint thread of golden light connecting the lizard to the sky, a puppet string made of authority. It's everything, Goku murmured to the silence. The bugs, the wind, the dirt, it's all tied down. This was the Supreme Angel's piece. It wasn't harmony, it was suspension. The world had been turned into a museum exhibit, perfectly preserved, perfectly watched, and utterly forbidden from changing. If Goku were to flare his aura now, if he were to release even a fraction of the true dragon power to shatter the lattice, the backlash wouldn't just break the seal. The strings were tied too tight. To rip the net would be to rip the skin off the planet. He was a bull in a shop made of explosives, and the fuse was already lit. A sudden sound pierced the unnatural quiet. The distant, rhythmic thrumming of a car engine on a highway miles away. Life. People. They were going about their days, driving to work, eating lunch, laughing, arguing, completely unaware that the sky above them was a guillotine waiting for the blade to drop. The thought of Chi-Chi, of Gohan and Goten hit him with the force of a physical blow. Were they under this net? Were there strings attached to their limbs too? Fear, sharp and panic-inducing, tried to rise in his throat. He wanted to fly. He wanted to burst into the air at light speed and tear across the continents to Mount Paozu. But he froze his muscles, forcing himself to stand still. "Don't fly," the dragon instinct whispered, a deep, reptilian growl in the back of his mind. To fly is to ripple the net. To ripple the net is to invite the spider. Goku looked up at the golden hexagons again, his eyes hardening. The initial shock was fading, replaced by a simmering volcanic heat in his gut. They had turned his home into a prison. They had turned the earth into a hostage. "You think you can leash the world?" Goku said, his voice low, vibrating with a timbre that sounded more like a shifting tectonic plate than a human voice. He closed his eyes, extending his senses outward, past the horizon, threading his awareness carefully through the gaps in the lattice. He needed to find his family. He needed to know they were safe before he started the war that would burn the heavens down. But the moment his senses touched the wider world, the lattice reacted. The humming in the air stopped. The wind died completely. The lizard on the rock stiffened and then crumbled into dust, as if its purpose as a sensor had been fulfilled and its existence was no longer required. Above him, directly overhead, the golden lines of the grid began to rotate. They shifted, sliding over one another with the sound of grinding glass forming a perfect circle, an eye opening in the fabric of the atmosphere. Goku opened his eyes. He didn't take a fighting stance. He didn't power up. He stood tall, his arms loose at his sides, the dragon's scale mark on his hand glowing with a faint, defiant crimson light. "I see you," Goku said to the sky. The eye in the sky did not blink. It simply deepened, the gold turning to a blinding, judicial white. The surveillance was over. The judgment was beginning. Judgment. The eye in the sky did not fire a beam. It did not unleash a cataclysmic wave of destruction. Instead, it simply poured. From the center of that blinding, judicial white circle, a singular drop of light detached itself. It fell slowly, defying the laws of gravity, descending like a feather made of liquid mercury. As it neared the ground, 10 meters in front of Goku, the light did not splash. It expanded, weaving itself into a shape. It formed legs, a torso, robes of pale gray, and finally a face that was terrifying in its symmetry. The light faded, leaving a figure standing, or rather hovering an inch above the cracked red clay. It was an angel, but not one of the guides Goku had known. It bore no resemblance to the whimsical elegance of Whis or the stern tutelage of Maris. This being was smaller, its skin a pale, bloodless lavender, its white hair slicked back with severe precision. It held no staff. It possessed no halo. Its eyes were not the calm violet of a teacher. They were the flat, empty gray of a mirror reflecting nothing. The pressure in the wasteland vanished. The wind returned, but it blew around the figure as if afraid to touch it. Goku didn't move. His body remained loose, but inside his chest the dragon seed was screaming. It was a primal, reptilian hiss of warning, a predator recognizing a trap. The entity before him didn't have a power level. It didn't have ki. It felt like a walking void in the universe, a hole where life should be. "Designation Son Goku," the figure said. The voice did not travel through the air. It manifested directly inside Goku's auditory cortex, bypassing his ears entirely. It was a sound devoid of timbre, pitch, or humanity. It sounded like a definition being read from a dictionary. "Corrected designation, anomaly 0 to 1, the figure amended, its head tilting slightly, a movement so smooth it looked like a glitch in a video recording. "You are not supposed to be here. The void does not return what it consumes." Goku stared at the emissary, his eyes narrowing to vertical slits. "I'm not a thing you can designate. Get out of my way." "Way implies a path," the emissary replied. "There is no path for you here. The timeline has been cauterized. Your presence is an infection in a healed wound." Goku took a step forward. The ground beneath his boot crunched, a loud, gritty sound in the unnatural quiet. "I don't care about your timeline. I'm here for my family, and I'm here to free Zeno." The emissary did not react to the name of the Omni King. It did not flinch. It simply raised one hand, palm open, fingers slender and perfectly manicured. "Quickly, observation," the emissary stated. Suddenly, the space around Goku warped. The red rocks, the dry scrub brush, the distant mountains, they didn't explode. They simply ceased to have color. The world turned into a wireframe sketch of itself, stripped of texture and life. Goku felt a chill that went deeper than his bones. It was a chill that touched the concept of his existence. "You believe you are a warrior returning to a battlefield," the emissary droned, its gray eyes locking onto Goku's burning gaze. "You are mistaken. You are a biological error in a system of absolute law. The Supreme Angel has rewritten the architecture of this sector. We do not fight errors, Son Goku. We correct them." Goku's fist clenched. Dragon energy, dark and crimson, flared around his hand, dissolving the wireframe effect near his skin. "I've broken your corrections before. The Grand Priest tried to seal me. I broke out. You think a few lines in the sky will stop me?" "The void was a disposal unit," the emissary said, lowering its hand. The color snapped back into the world with a nauseating lurch. "This is a hostage situation." The words hung in the hot air, heavy. "Always." Goku went still. The dragon aura flickered and died down, replaced by a cold, calculating dread. "What did you say?" The emissary floated a few inches closer. For the first time, a flicker of something crossed its face. Not emotion, but a faint condescending curiosity. The Supreme Angel anticipated your irrational refusal to die. He calculated that physical barriers would only encourage your Saiyan biology to evolve. You thrive on conflict. You consume walls. Therefore, the wall was not placed in front of you. The emissary pointed a single finger toward the east, toward the unseen horizon where Mount Paozu lay. It was placed around them. Goku's heart hammered against his ribs. The image of Chi-Chi and Gohan flashed in his mind, vivid and terrifying. The authority seals you sensed in the sky are not passive, the emissary explained, its voice monotone as if reading a weather report. They are entangled with the temporal signatures of your bloodline, your mate, your offspring, their descendants. The grid is currently dormant. It allows them to exist. It allows them to breathe, to sleep, to dream. The emissary paused, letting the silence stretch until it was agonizing. But the moment you exert divine force within this atmosphere, the moment you attempt to ascend to the heavens again, the grid will interpret that energy as a violation code. Goku felt the blood drain from his face. You rigged the planet? We rigged the causality, the emissary corrected. If you fight, the signal travels, the seals activate. And they do not kill your family, son Goku. Death is messy. Death leaves ghosts. Death leaves memories. The emissary's eyes seemed to widen just a fraction, projecting a horrifying emptiness. The seals are erasure mechanisms. They will unravel the threads of their timelines backward. If you strike against the Supreme Angel, your wife will not die. She will simply have never been born. Your son will dissolve into probability dust. The memories you hold of them will remain, but they will be hallucinations of a madman, for the universe will have no record of them ever existing. Goku shook. The vibration started in his hands and traveled up his arms. It wasn't fear. It was a rage so dense, so black, that it threatened to collapse the ground beneath him. The dragon seed roared, demanding blood, demanding he rip this pale bureaucrat apart and feast on the energy. Kill him, the dragon whispered, tear the tongue from his mouth. But the father in him froze. If he attacked now, if he released the power necessary to destroy this angel, would that trigger the seals? Was the trigger sensitive to his rage? Was his very presence already tightening the noose? You cowards, Goku whispered, the sound grinding out of his throat like gravel. You're scared. You're scared of me. Fear is a biological inefficiency, the emissary replied, unmoved. We are efficient. This is the terms of your parole, Anomaly 01. You may exist on this rock. You may live out your mortal span. But you will do so as a flightless bird. You will not touch the sky. You will not ignite your aura. You will rot in the mud, silent and obedient. The emissary began to fade, its body turning back into translucent light. Approach the throne again, the voice echoed, now surrounding Goku from all sides, and you will watch your history vanish one face at a time. Goku lunged. He couldn't help it. The instinct to grab, to stop the messenger, to demand an answer was too strong. He moved faster than sound, his hand swiping through the space where the emissary hovered. His fingers passed through empty air. The emissary dissolved into mist, reabsorbed into the sunlight. But as the presence vanished, a final whisper lingered, etched into the wind itself. Go home, son Goku, count the seconds, they are all borrowed. Goku stood alone in the wasteland. His hand was still outstretched, grasping at nothing. The heat of the sun felt mocking now. The golden lattice in the sky hummed, a low, constant vibration that sounded like a clock ticking down. He lowered his hand. He looked east. He didn't fly. He couldn't risk the flare of energy. Instead, he bent his knees, muscles coiling with raw, physical strength. No Kai, just the biological power of a Saiyan body honed in the void. He launched himself forward, leaping miles in a single bound, tearing across the landscape with the desperate, frantic speed of a man running through a burning building. He had to see them. He had to know they were still real. Goku ran. He did not streak through the sky like a comet, leaving a trail of white-hot ion trails. He did not fold space with the pop of instant transmission. He ran. He bounded over ridges and tore through forests with the primitive, thundering gait of a beast that had forgotten how to be a god. Every impact of his boots against the earth sent tremors through the tectonic plates. Vibrations he desperately tried to dampen. He felt heavy. The atmosphere, thickened by the golden lattice of angel law, pressed against his skin like layers of wet silk. It was a sickening sensation to possess the power to crack a galaxy yet be forced to move like a man fleeing a wildfire on foot. Faster, he screamed internally, his lungs burning with the friction of the air. Faster before the line snaps. The landscape of Earth blurred past him, a smear of greens and browns that meant nothing. He was focused on a single point in the distance, the distinctive jagged curvature of Mount Paozu. He crested the final mountain range, his feet skidding on the shale, kicking up a cloud of dust that hung suspended in the stagnant air. He stopped. Below him lay his home. It looked painfully normal. The small, dome-shaped house sat nestled in the clearing, surrounded by the lush, overgrown vibrancy of the forest. The river sparkled as it wound its way through the valley. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, white and thin against the green backdrop. It was a painting of peace, a sanctuary that seemed a million light-years away from the dragon void, from Zeno's chains, from the cold, gray eyes of the emissary. But to Goku's evolved eyes, the painting was burning. He didn't need to focus his ki to see it. The dragon seed, pulsing with a frantic rhythm in his chest, overlaid a second layer of reality onto the scene. Directly above the house, hovering perhaps 20 feet over the orange-tiled roof, was the sigil. It was terrifyingly beautiful. A halo of complex, rotating golden geometry, concentric rings of light that spun in opposite directions, silent and frictionless. It wasn't just a circle, it was a mechanism. Runes of angelic script floated within the rings, glowing with a brightness that made the midday sun look dim. It hung there with the absolute stability of a moon, casting no shadow, making no sound that human ears could hear. But Goku could hear it. It sounded like a high-pitched whine, a dentist's drill pressing against a nerve. Thrum, thrum, thrum. It was a timer. Goku slid down the embankment, his movements jagged. He reached the edge of the clearing and froze behind a large oak tree. He needed to compose himself. He needed to hide the terror that was undoubtedly contorting his face. If he walked in looking like a soldier who had just seen a massacre, they would panic. And panic was energy. Panic rippled the net. He took a breath. It rattled in his chest. He smoothed his gi, which was torn and stained with the gray dust of the void. He wiped the dirt from his face. Then he stepped into the open. Goku. The voice was light, carrying across the yard with the ease of a breeze. Chi-Chi was standing near the clothesline, a basket of laundry propped against her hip. She froze, a white sheet halfway folded in her hands. She blinked, as if trying to process the sudden appearance of her husband, who had been missing in a dimension that didn't exist on any map. Goku! She dropped the basket. The sheet fluttered to the grass. She didn't run to him immediately. She hesitated, scanning him for blood, for injury, for the telltale signs of a battle that usually followed him home. "Hey, Chi-Chi," Goku said, his voice cracked. He tried to force a smile, but it felt like he was wearing a mask made of lead. He walked toward her. Every step felt like walking through a minefield. He kept his eyes locked on her face, refusing to look up at the golden guillotine spinning silently above her head. You're back," Chi-Chi stammered, tears welling in her eyes. She ran to him then, closing the distance and burying her face in his chest. "Where were you? Was said you vanished. He said he couldn't find your signature anywhere in the universe." Goku wrapped his arms around her. He held her tight, too tight. He could feel her heart beating against his ribs. It was a strong, steady rhythm, thump, 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 thump. But above them the sigil hummed, thrum, thrum. Goku looked up. From this distance, the horror was absolute. He could see thin, translucent threads of light descending from the center of the rotating halo. They didn't just touch Chi-Chi. They went into her. One thread sank into the crown of her head, another into her spine. They were intangible to her. But to Goku, they looked like IV lines pumping potential erasure directly into her existence. "I'm home," Goku whispered, burying his face in her hair to hide his eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" Chi-Chi pulled back, wiping her eyes, her expression shifting from relief to her trademark sternness. "Just tell me you're done fighting for a while. You look tired, Goku. You look older." "Dad?" Goku flinched. He turned to see Gohan standing in the doorway of the house. He was wearing his glasses and a tracksuit, a book in one hand, the scholar, the son who wanted peace more than anything. Gohan's eyes widened behind his lenses. He dropped the book. "Dad, your energy, it's—" Gohan stopped. He frowned, stepping off the porch. He looked at Goku, then he looked around the clearing, his instincts flaring. Gohan couldn't see the sigil. His senses were attuned to mortal ki and traditional god ki, not the esoteric frequencies of high angelic law. But he could feel the wrongness. He could feel the pressure in the air, the way the sunlight seemed too sharp, too artificial. "Dad, what's wrong?" Gohan asked, his voice dropping to a serious, combat-ready tone. "I can't sense your ki, but I feel like we're being watched." Goku's heart stopped. "Don't look up, Gohan," he pleaded silently. "Please, son, don't try to find it." If Gohan flared his energy to search the area, if he went ultimate to scan for threats, the lattice might interpret it as divine force. The trigger might trip. "Nothing's wrong," Goku lied, the words tasting like ash. He stepped away from Chi-Chi and walked toward Gohan, placing a heavy hand on his son's shoulder. He squeezed, a subtle warning to stay powered down. I had a hard training session, that's all. I'm completely drained." Gohan looked at his father's hand, then up at his eyes. He saw the tremble in Goku's fingers. He saw the depth of the shadow in Goku's gaze, a haunted, ancient look that hadn't been there before. "You're lying," Gohan whispered, low enough so Chi-Chi couldn't hear. "Dad, your hand, it feels like scales?" Goku pulled his hand back quickly, hiding the dragon mark. "Let's go inside. I'm hungry. I want Chi-Chi's cooking." "Goku!" Chi-Chi scolded, picking up the laundry basket, oblivious to the sword hanging over her timeline. "You disappear for months and the first thing you want is food? Honestly." She marched toward the house, passing directly under the center of the sigil. Goku watched, paralyzed. As she walked beneath the core of the golden halo, the rings spun faster. The humming pitch rose just slightly, causing the bones in Goku's ears to vibrate. The threads of light attached to her stretched and adjusted, tracking her movement with mechanical precision. It was a sniper scope. It was tracking her like a target. "Dad?" Gohan said again, urgent now. "What is it? What are you seeing?" Goku looked at his son. Gohan was strong. He was arguably the strongest warrior in the universe when he tapped into his beast form. But strength meant nothing here. You couldn't punch a law. You couldn't blast a decree from the Grand Priest. If Goku told him, Gohan would get angry, Gohan would rage, and that rage would kill him. "Nothing," Goku said, his voice hollow. "Just let's eat, Gohan, please." He walked past his son, head bowed, entering the house that felt like a cardboard box sitting in the mouth of a crushing machine. He sat at the table. He ate. He laughed when Chi-Chi scolded him for chewing with his mouth open. He listened to Gohan talk about his research. He played the role of Son Goku, the carefree Saiyan. But all the while he could feel the vibration in the roof. He could sense the golden net tightening in the sky. He was a ghost haunting his own life, sitting at a dinner table with people who were already marked for deletion. He put down his bowl. The food tasted like dust. "I need some air," Goku said abruptly. "You just got here," Chi-Chi frowned. "Just a second." Goku walked out the back door, stepping onto the small wooden porch. The sun was setting now, turning the sky a bruised purple. The golden sigil glowed brighter in the twilight, its light harsh and alien against the dusk. He gripped the railing of the porch until the wood splintered in his hand. "How do I stop this?" he thought, despair clawing at his throat. "I can't fight. I can't run. I can't even speak." "You seem distressed, Anomaly." The voice didn't come from behind him. It came from everywhere. It came from the sky, from the grass, from the molecules of the air itself. It was not the mechanical voice of the emissary. This voice was rich, melodic, and terrifyingly calm. It was the voice of someone who owned the physics of the universe. Goku didn't turn around. He slowly looked up, past the golden sigil, into the darkening heavens. The stars were blinking out, one by one. The Supreme Angel had arrived. The night did not fall, it was dismissed. The stars above Mount Paozu did not twinkle or fade naturally into the encroaching dark. They were simply extinguished, pinched out one by one, like candles by a thumb and forefinger of invisible cosmic proportions. The moon, usually a comforting sentinel, turned a dull, lifeless gray, stripped of its luminescence. The universe was shrinking. The horizon was drawing in. The only light remaining in the world was the sickening, pulsating gold of the sigil hovering above Goku's home. Goku stood on the porch, his hand still gripping the splintered wood of the railing. He didn't shout. He didn't flare his aura. He understood, with a terrifying clarity born of the dragon seed, that he was no longer standing in the physical world. He was standing in an audience chamber. The walls of this chamber were the sky itself, and the floor was the dirt of the earth, and the king was everywhere. "Show yourself," Goku said. His voice was quiet, trembling not with fear, but with the immense effort of holding back a scream that could shatter continents. You are looking for a body to hit, Son Goku, the voice replied. It was a voice that defied direction. It didn't come from the sky. It resonated from the atoms of the wood under his palm, from the water in the river, from the blood in his own veins. It was soft, cultured, and devastatingly arrogant. It was the voice of an author speaking to a character on a page. You are still thinking like a mortal, the voice continued, smooth as silk over a blade. You believe that if you can find the source, you can punch it. You believe that if you scream loud enough, your hair will change color and the laws of reality will bend to accommodate your tantrums. That is the Saiyan disease. You mistake stubbornness for destiny. The air in front of the porch shimmered. It didn't form a face or a body. That would be too simple. Instead, the space distorted into a mirror. It reflected Goku, but not as he was. It showed him broken, old, and alone in a white void. I am the Supreme Angel, the voice intoned. I am the architect of the lattice you currently breathe under. I do not need to show myself to you. I am the physics that allows you to stand. Goku's eyes darted to the window of his house. Inside, he could see the silhouette of Chi-Chi moving in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, normal, fragile. Leave them out of this, Goku growled, a low rumble that vibrated in his chest. This is between you and me. You want to control Zeno? Fine, fight me for it, but don't touch my family. A laugh echoed through the valley. It wasn't a villain's cackle. It was a genuine, amused chuckle, devoid of malice but filled with pity. Fight you for it, the Supreme Angel repeated, tasting the absurdity of the phrase. You speak as if we are rivals, as if we are peers. Do you fight the bacteria on your skin, Son Goku? No, you wash it away. Above the house, the golden sigil dropped 5 feet. The humming noise spiked to a shriek, causing the glass in the kitchen window to rattle. Goku flinched, his hand instinctively reaching out, but he froze. Do not move, the Supreme Angel commanded. The amusement was gone. The voice was now pure, diamond-hard pressure. If you move, the algorithm advances. Look at the seal, dragon. Look at it with your stolen eyes. Goku looked up. The rings of the sigil were spinning so fast they blurred into a solid disk of light. And in the center, he saw the threads, the timeline threads connected to Chi-Chi and Gohan, beginning to fray. You are a chaotic variable, the Supreme Angel explained. You disrupt the Grand Priest's perfect order. You turned the Omni King, the supreme authority of all existence, into a confused child who relies on friendship. That is an error. We are correcting the error. We have sealed the king to purify his mind, and we have sealed you to ensure the purification is not interrupted. You're enslaving him, Goku spat, tears of frustration stinging his eyes. Zeno isn't a system, he's a person. He is a function, the voice roared, the sound shaking the trees. And you have corrupted that function, but we are benevolent. We do not wish to waste a warrior of your caliber. You have utility, you have strength. The pressure descended. It felt like the sky was physically lowering, crushing Goku into the floorboards. So here is the covenant, the Supreme Angel whispered, the sound now intimate right next to Goku's ear. You want to save the king? Impossible. He is beyond your reach. But you want to save the woman inside? The boy? That is within your power. Goku was panting, sweat dripping from his chin. His knuckles were white. What do you want? Submission, the voice said simply. Absolute, eternal submission. The mirror image in front of Goku changed. It showed Goku kneeling. It showed him wearing the uniform of a Grand Priest guard, a white tunic with the golden symbol of angel law on the chest. It showed him standing silent and still in the heavenly court, a weaponless watchdog. Kneel, the Supreme Angel commanded. Acknowledge angel law as the supreme truth. Renounce your claim to the dragon void. Renounce your friendship with Zeno. Pledge your loyalty to the throne of the high angels. Do this, and the sigil vanishes. Your family lives. They will live long, happy lives, and you will watch them from a distance, knowing you bought their safety with your pride. And if I don't, Goku asked, his voice barely audible. Then I accelerate the decay, the voice replied coldly. I will not kill them, Goku. That is too quick. I will erase the moment you met Chi-Chi. I will erase the day Gohan was born. I will unwind the tapestry of time until you are a lonely, mad hermit who remembers a life that the universe claims never happened. You will scream their names, and history will answer with silence. Goku closed his eyes. The image was vivid. He saw it. He saw a world where Gohan never existed. No Pan, no Goten, No late-night dinners, no shouting matches about training, just an empty house and a cold, perfect sky. The Supreme Angel was not bluffing. This wasn't a ki blast he could deflect. This wasn't a villain he could overpower with a rage boost. This was a god holding an eraser over the sketch of his life. Goku's spirit fractured. For the first time in his history, through Frieza, through Cell, through Buu, through Jiren, Goku found a wall he could not climb. The Saiyan drive to break limits slammed headfirst into the realization that breaking his limit here meant breaking his heart. He sank to his knees. The wood of the porch creaked under his weight. He placed his hands on the railing, head bowed low. "Good," the Supreme Angel purred. The pressure lifted slightly, the sigil slowed its spinning. "You see, order is painful, but it is necessary. You are a wild beast, Son Goku, and beasts must be broken before they can be useful." Goku stared at the grains of wood in the floorboards. A tear fell, splashing onto the dark timber. He felt small, he felt powerless. The dragon seed inside him was silent, seemingly suffocated by the weight of the choice. "Say it," the Supreme Angel commanded. "Say the words, 'I submit to the law.'" Goku's mouth opened. His throat was dry. He tried to form the words. He tried to surrender. He tried to be the sacrifice, just as he had been against Cell, just as he had been against Raditz. If his pride was the price for their lives, he would pay it. Goku choked out. Thump, a heartbeat. Not his heart, not Chi-Chi's. It was a deep, resonant thrum that came from beneath the tectonic plates of the earth. It was the same sound he had heard in the void. Thump! The dragon seed didn't die. It woke up. It didn't wake up with heat. It woke up with cold. It woke up with the chilling clarity of a creature that had existed before the angels, before the throne, before the laws were written. A voice, not the Supreme Angels, and not the emissaries, echoed in the cavern of Goku's soul. It was his own voice, but older, ancient. "A dragon does not bargain for its life," the inner voice whispered. "And a dragon does not bargain with food." Goku stopped speaking. The silence on the porch stretched. "Finish the sentence, anomaly," the Supreme Angel demanded, a hint of irritation creeping into his tone. Goku's hands, resting on the railing, stopped trembling. The tear on the floorboard evaporated, sizzled away by a sudden microscopic rise in temperature. Goku didn't stand up yet. He remained kneeling, but the posture changed. He wasn't slumping in defeat. He was crouching, like a tiger preparing to spring. "You made a mistake," Goku whispered. Excuse me, the Supreme Angel's voice grew sharp. Goku slowly lifted his head. His eyes were no longer the soft black of a Saiyan, nor the silver of Ultra Instinct. They were vertical slits. They were crimson. They were the eyes of a predator looking at prey that didn't know it was being hunted. "You threatened my family to control me," Goku said, his voice steady, devoid of the panic that had ruled him seconds ago. "You thought fear would make me a dog." Goku stood up. The movement was fluid, eerie. The air around him began to distort, not with golden light, but with a heavy, dark haze that swallowed the light of the sigil. "But you forgot what I am," Goku continued. He turned around, facing the dark sky, facing the invisible god, facing the sigil that threatened to erase everything he loved. He didn't shout. He didn't scream. The rage that filled him now was not the explosive golden fury of a Super Saiyan. It was silent. It was absolute. It was the cold, suffocating pressure of the bottom of the ocean. "You didn't make me a dog," Goku said. "You just took away the only reason I had to hold back." "You dare?" The Supreme Angel's voice boomed, causing the ground to shake. "The sigil is active. I will erase them now. I will—" "Try it," Goku interrupted. He raised his hand. The dragon mark on his palm ignited, casting a blood-red glow over the yard. "Then I'll erase you first." The air did not explode. The ground did not crack. When Goku spoke those words, the universe simply held its breath. "Then I'll erase you first." The sentence hung in the twilight, heavy and absolute, defying the golden lattice that caged the world. For a heartbeat, there was no response from the Supreme Angel. The silence was not one of hesitation, but of processing, a divine intellect trying to compute a variable that should not exist. A mortal had just threatened the architecture of heaven. A biological entity had just threatened to delete a fundamental law. Then the sky laughed. It was a terrible sound, a rolling boom of thunder that sounded like tectonic plates grinding together. The Supreme Angel's amusement shattered the quiet of the valley. "Erase me?" the voice mocked, echoing from the clouds. "You are a candle threatening the sun, Son Goku. You do not possess the authority to erase. You only possess the capacity to break. And right now, you have broken the covenant. Above the house, the golden sigil screamed. The humming noise shifted into a piercing shriek. The concentric rings of light spun so fast they became a blur of solid radiance. The threads of causality connected to Chi-Chi and Gohan glowed white-hot, pulsing with the signal to unwind their history. The countdown had been skipped. The execution was immediate. "Watch," the Supreme Angel commanded, his voice cold and final. "Watch them fade. Watch the house become empty. Remember this moment, Dragon. Remember that your pride cost you everything." Goku did not look up. He did not look at the sigil. He did not scream no or reach out with a desperate hand. He closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he felt the dragon seed. It wasn't a ball of fire anymore. It was a black hole. It was a singularity of hunger and dominance that sat in the center of his chest, ancient and cold. The angels operated on law, complex, woven rules of permission and denial, but dragons operated on truth. And the truth is, Goku thought, his mind crystal clear, power doesn't need permission. He snapped his eyes open. They were not the eyes of a Saiyan. The pupils were vertical, needle-thin slits of obsidian set in pools of crimson. Goku exhaled. It wasn't a breath of air. It was a wave of pressure. A pulse of dark, heavy crimson energy washed out from his body, expanding in a perfect sphere. It didn't destroy the grass. It didn't shatter the porch. It passed through matter like a ghost. But when that wave hit the golden sigil, the shrieking stopped. Instantaneously. The spinning rings of angel law froze in mid-rotation. The glowing threads attached to Chi-Chi and Gohan didn't snap. They turned gray. The white-hot light of erasure was drained out of them, replaced by a dull, static numbness. The sigil hung in the air, paralyzed, glitching like a corrupt video file. What? The Supreme Angel's voice lost its composure. The arrogance vanished, replaced by a spike of genuine confusion. "What is this? My authority? Why is the signal not conducting?" Goku took a step forward. The wood of the porch didn't creak this time. He was moving with a weight that the physical world could barely support. "You're using angel law," Goku said, his voice sounding like it was coming from the bottom of a deep well, hollow, resonant, and terrifying. "Law requires a medium. It requires space to travel through. It requires a reality that agrees to listen to it." Goku raised his hand. The red dragon mark on his palm was no longer glowing. It was devouring the light around it, creating a small vortex of darkness. "I just denied your reality access to my home." It was the first manifestation of the dragon's authority. Sovereign denial. Within the radius of Goku's aura, angel law was not broken. It was simply ignored. The commands from the Supreme Angel were screaming to be heard, but the space around Mount Paozu had become deaf to them. "Impossible," the Supreme Angel hissed. The sky darkened further. "You cannot override the Grand Priest's weave. You are immortal. You are dirt." "I was," Goku agreed softly. He looked at his hand, watching the shadows coil around his fingers. "But you kept pushing. You kept taking. You locked up my friend. You threatened my wife. You tried to turn my son into a memory." He clenched his fist. The frozen sigil above the house shattered. It didn't explode. It crumbled into flakes of gray ash that dissolved before they hit the roof. The threads vanished. The connection was severed. Chi-Chi and Gohan were safe. Not because the angel showed mercy, but because the angel had been locked out. "You have made a grave error," the Supreme Angel whispered. The voice was distant now, retreating from the earth, pulling back to the safety of the heavens to reassess the threat. "You've saved them for a moment, but you cannot hold the sky forever. I will bring the entire host. I will bring the high angels. We will scour this planet until there is nothing left but glass." Goku looked up at the stars, or where the stars used to be before the angel blotted them out. "No," Goku said, "you won't come back here." He bent his knees. The ground beneath the house groaned, the tectonic plates shifting deep underground. "Because I'm coming to you." He turned back to the window one last time. He saw Gohan standing in the kitchen, looking out, confused, searching for the source of the pressure. He saw Chi-Chi drying her hands, oblivious to the fact that she had almost ceased to exist. Goku placed his hand against the invisible barrier of the window, leaving a faint, foggy print on the glass. "Wait for me," he whispered. It was the coldest vow he had ever made. He wasn't promising to win. He wasn't promising to have fun. He was promising to end a system. Goku turned to the sky. The golden lattice of the angel's cage was still there, high in the atmosphere, pulsating with the warning that flight was forbidden. Goku didn't care. He launched himself. He didn't fly. He tore a hole in the sky. He ascended with such violence that the air around him ignited into plasma. He slammed into the golden lattice at Mach speed. The angel law tried to repel him, tried to burn him, tried to rewrite his biology to gravity. But Goku was wrapped in the dragon-scale armor of his own Kai. He punched through the grid. Crack! The sound was heard across the entire planet. The sky fractured like a mirror struck by a hammer. A massive, jagged tear appeared in the golden net, bleeding crimson energy into the upper atmosphere. Goku shot through the breach, leaving the Earth behind. He left the atmosphere, left the gravity, and entered the cold vacuum of space. He didn't stop. He locked onto the signature of the Supreme Angel, that arrogant, pristine light hiding deep within the celestial realm. He was a red streak in the darkness of the cosmos, a comet of vengeance flying the wrong way. As he crossed the threshold of the mortal universe, the Supreme Angel's voice echoed in his mind one last time, trembling with a new emotion. Fear. Turn back, anomaly. You are declaring war on heaven itself. Goku's eyes flashed in the void. He didn't slow down. He accelerated. The war is already over, Goku sent the thought back, cold and sharp as a blade. I'm just coming to sign the treaty. With your blood. Earth faded into a pale blue dot behind him. The cage was broken. The hostages were safe for now. The dragon was loose. And, for the first time in eons, the throne of heaven felt the floor shake.